Hey there, John and Mike, brew-news.com, and tonight we're talking about what the F is an adjunct. As Mike said once,
many videos ago,
a few videos ago, he said, "You know what? That's another video." And now we're finally going to talk about it. Just, we're just sitting around.
Some people have commented, "Hey, where's the what the F is an adjunct video?" Here it is. What the F?
People are waiting on the edge of their seats, saying like, "Hey, I need to hear more about that." So I guess I'll try to clean up the question. But what is an adjunct?
What is an adjunct?
And we talked a little bit about this before we started the video. You know, is this a derogatory term? So I think we say like, let's define it, and then what does it really mean to homebrewers? I mean, is it a bad thing? I mean, what's your angle, my friend?
Well, I think if you look at the Brewers Association definition of craft beer versus macro beer, or if you listen to some of the ramblings from like Stone Brewing and how much they push back against big beer, right? The idea of using corn or rice in your beer is fairly demonized by certain parts of our larger craft beer community, right? But to me, we're home brewers, and should we really be demonizing an ingredient if your recipe calls for it? I mean, so what is on its simplest form, I guess an adjunct to me has always meant something that is not part of your malted grain, malted ingredients repertoire. So malted barley obviously is not an adjunct. Malted wheat, those types of products. But what about your favorite oatmeal stout recipe where you throw in 10% oatmeal? Well, flaked oats, those aren't malted, so that's an adjunct beer. What about, like, one of my favorite recipes is cream ale. Put a bunch of flaked maize in there. Well, that's an adjunct, so is that a bad beer?
Right.
So, I mean, there's a time and place to use every ingredient, right?
Yeah.
You're not going to use roasted barley in a Pilsner, right? And just like so in some recipes, you want to make a great Irish stout, you're going to need to use flaked barley. Those are all adjuncts. So, to me, the definition of an adjunct is, a non-malted product that you're putting in your beer, typically of a grain origin. I don't necessarily view like brewing sugars as an adjunct. I would just call them brewing sugars. I mean, we have to label everything, but you do hear a lot of demonization of adjuncts, and I think they have their place.
Right, but I think the demonization with macro breweries is that they are putting in cheaper ingredients because they're trying to maximize profits.
Yep.
And therefore, based on that, they're also bringing down, flavor and character.
I would agree with the second part, which is they're trying to dumb down the flavor. But I think research that I've seen, when you go back, certainly today rice and corn is cheaper than malted barley. But if you actually go back in history when they first started using those ingredients, it actually cost more to use flaked corn and flaked rice. So the original decision to use those has nothing to do with economics, because it actually cost more to put that in the beer.
It was more about flavor.
It was more about
watering
total
down
drinkability and total flavor, and hitting a larger mass of people, which is really what capitalism is all about. I mean, so I guess I can't, knock them for that. I think we can't wrap up our hatred of maybe business practices in pushing out our beloved craft beers, especially in light of certain buyouts and stuff like that, to not go too far off the deep end. We can't demonize ingredients and the use of ingredients where appropriate for some of the other things we don't like about macro beer, I mean, I'll be the first to admit that when the summers, when it's really hot out, you're mowing the lawn, I don't mind cracking open. I've got a certain brand of macro beer that I like to buy, and every summer I probably end up buying like a 12-pack of my favorite macro beer. And by the end of it, I'm so sick of it, and I don't want to drink any more of it. but I think you'll find a lot of homebrewers who they love their Russian Imperial Stout or they love their double IPA, but after they have two of those, they want to crack open, pick it off the list which one they want to crack open of one of those other beers, And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. You like what you like. If we're going to be homebrewers and we're going to be open to doing weird things to our beers, like putting weird ingredients in our beers and doing stuff like that, we also have to be open to all ingredients. We can't discriminate. You know?
Well, no, and I agree. I think, and you've hit the right word, is being open. And I think that's the difference between homebrewers and other beer enthusiasts. I mean, I think we're open certainly to more styles and exploring beer history and just understanding every little aspect about beer for sure. And it's because we're making it ourselves in our, in our spare time, and it's like, it's less about, making a livelihood. It's more about an expression of art and science and, doing something in our spare time, keeping ourselves out of trouble.
Yeah.
As I tell my wife, look, I'm trying to keep myself out of trouble. But yeah, I think you nailed it. I mean, I know that it was kind of this funny thing you interjected when well, that's another video. But I think I think I appreciate the conversation for sure. Just as we explore the hobby and some of the hang-ups that you hear, and especially like you get on the internet and you there's like just this what I think is like group think about certain aspects about beer. And then I try to say, like, well, but I don't feel that way in my own little microcosm of beer enthusiasm, because I'm trying to, do my own thing and explore everything that's available to me. And it's even outside of what, I can buy at a homebrew store, too.
Yeah.
It's like, what if I try this particular spice because I think that fenugreek's going to give me a maple flavor or something like that, I think that we're just more open to try to experiment and do something that's, outside of style and outside of history and, trying to do our own thing.
I think the point of bringing this out in a video is to just give our viewers and ourselves an opportunity to have a conversation in the comments.
Yep.
How do you feel about adjuncts? How many beers do you brew with adjuncts? Do you brew a beer with an adjunct and you never really thought of it as an adjunct in the past?
Right.
Like maybe you love oatmeal stout like I do, and you're like, oh wow, that is an adjunct, isn't it? Right? Or something like that, right? So
if we look at it from a certain point of view,
yeah,
sure.
right. So isn't everything is about point of view, right?
True that.
Perspective. So
Right on.
So leave a comment. Let us have it. The good and the bad. What the
Please.
F is an adjunct?
Yes, what the F is an adjunct.
Sweet.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate the viewership. If you like this video, like it. Please subscribe to our channel, because we do put out these homebrew videos each and every week. And we appreciate the support, because it keeps us to do our thing. So, for John and Mike, brew-dudes.com. What the F is an adjunct?
Cheers.
Cheers.